What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the CBS Sports channel. I'm Matt, and you're watching episode 4 of Fixing the Franchise. Now, this is a pretty giant episode, as this episode is all about fixing the New York Giants. As always, I will give the rundown on how this works for any of you first-time viewers. I'm going to be taking a team that either underachieved last season or was just flat out bad. In today's case, it's the New York Giants. From here, I put myself in the shoes of the general manager, fix the franchise. The catch is, I only have 5 moves that I can make. I'd really like to emphasize that, so, kind of hits home. I only have 5 moves. I won't be able to address every single little need of this team, but I will try my best to put them in a place to succeed going into next season. With that out of the way, let's move on to the general overview of the New York Giants. Big Blue finished 2023 with a 6-11 record, which surprisingly enough wasn't the worst record in the NFC East. This is often a very competitive division, as we've seen over the last decade or so. The Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys have both dominated the regular season over the past couple of years. Both of these teams are currently in their Super Bowl window. With that said, the Eagles are a year removed from making it to the big game, while Dallas only has 4 playoff wins since the year 2000. I should also mention the team that finished last in the NFC East in 2023, which was the Washington Commanders, the Commies. This team is currently in rebuild mode and might not contend for a few years. Although this division should prove to be competitive in 2024, there might be a window of opportunity for the Giants in the next couple of years. Now, let's move on to how the Giants' offense and defense performed this past season. Starting on the offensive side of the ball, the New York Giants ranked 29th out of all 32 teams. Unlike Josh Dobbs, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I do know that being in the bottom 5 of the league in any category is less than ideal. This offense faced a large drop-off from 2022, where the Giants were ranked 18th. As bad as this looks, the Giants faced a ton of injuries throughout the season. They lost quarterback Daniel Jones, tight end Darren Waller, and they also lost star left tackle Andrew Thomas. This is only head coach Brian Daboll's second season, but after the Giants overachieved in 2022, there were some high expectations for 2023. A majority of fans believe the problem starts at quarterback, but I don't think Daniel Jones is all that bad. He will never be at the same level as someone like Josh Allen, but I could see his ceiling being an above-average game manager. I'll be moving forward with this video with Jones as the starting quarterback for 2024. My reasoning for this being that Daniel Jones has a guarantee in his contract for 2024, so cutting him would result in a huge cap hit that New York cannot afford. He has shown flashes, and I think he deserves one last chance. I know a lot of fans aren't going to like this, but I think it's the most realistic scenario for this team going forward. I think the 2 biggest needs for this offense this offseason are a wide receiver 1 and some help amongst the offensive line. Switching gears to the defensive side of the ball now, things don't really get that much better. The Giants had the 27th ranked defense in 2023. This defense was ranked 25th in 2022, so they're about in the same ballpark. With that said, there are a couple observations I'd like to make about this defense. First off, their defensive coordinator over the last couple of years was Wink Martindale, who the G-men have since parted ways with. He could have been a part of the issue, but also, this Giants defense has a ton of young pieces with a lot of upside. If this starting defense can continue to develop, and we had a couple talented pieces, I believe that this D can do some damage. As always, I'm going to highlight some key players that I view as foundational pieces for this team moving forward. Starting off, we have wide receiver Jalen Hyatt. The 2023 third-round pick wasn't utilized much in his rookie season, but when he was, it seemed like the offense was better off. He had a couple of big catches, but did suffer from several drops. I think Hyatt has the ceiling of a traditional deep threat and can serve as the team's wide receiver 2 for the future. Jalen Hyatt will benefit from an offseason development and a wide receiver 1 on the opposite side of the field from him. Moving on to the only other offensive player I'm going to highlight, we have left tackle Andrew Thomas. Now, Andrew Thomas isn't coming off the best year of his career. He missed a lot of games with injury and didn't perform the greatest. However, before 2023, he was one of the best left tackles in the league. With a healthy offseason, he should return to his true form. One thing I'd like to point out about Andrew Thomas is that a lot of fans were ready to give up on him after his second season. He struggled early on in his career, and they were just done. But in his 3rd season, he finally broke out and played like the 4th overall pick he was. The reason I bring this up is right tackle Evan Neal is in a similar situation right now. An offensive tackle that went top 10 in the draft and struggled in his first 2 seasons, a lot of fans are giving up on. I expect Evan Neal to break out in his 3rd season just like Andrew Thomas did. If he does, then the Giants have the bookends to their offensive line locked up for the future. Switching to the defensive side of the ball now, we have a lot more foundational pieces to build off of than the offense. The first defensive guy is arguably the best player on the New York Giants, and that is Dexter Lawrence, aka Sexy Dexy. He is one of, if not the best defensive tackle in the NFL, and is vital to this defense. Sexy Dexy is a beast, and the Giants need to make sure he stays in New York for his entire career. Sliding over to the edge is Kayvon Thibodeaux. Kayvon Thibodeaux is a rising star, has the potential to be a top 5 edge rusher in the NFL. Although his PFF grade isn't the greatest, the film says otherwise. Thibodeaux has an extremely high motor and appears to be in almost every play. He should continue to improve and is definitely a foundational piece for Big Blue's future. The next guy isn't exactly a homegrown talent, but came over to New York in free agency last offseason. That's Bobby Okereke. Okereke was one of my favorite inside linebackers when he was on the Colts, and I thought this was a great signing for New York. Okereke went on and had a huge season statistically, as you can see, and he should control the middle of the field for the next several years. On to the secondary, we have cornerback Deonte Banks. The Giants' 2023 first-round pick didn't grade out the best in his rookie season, but showed flashes and has all of the upside in the world. This is a player I was high on going into the draft. I think he takes a big leap going into year 2. If all goes as planned, Banks should be the Giants' cornerback 1. The last player I'm highlighting is a player I've been high on since he came out of college, and that's safety Xavier McKinney. McKinney had a great year in 2023, as you can see by his stats and PFF grade. He's a very versatile player that can play almost anywhere in that Giants secondary. The only issue is that he's a pending free agent, and after how he played this past season, should demand a huge contract. I may or may not be foreshadowing. Now that I've covered the star players I like to build around on this Giants current roster, I'm going to quickly discuss the Giants cap situation before discussing how I'd fix this franchise. When I was first mapping out this video, the Giants were around $21 million in cap space. However, a few days ago, the NFL increased the max cap hit throughout the entire league. So now at the time that I make this video, the New York Giants are sitting at around $38 million in cap room, which ranks in the middle of all teams. Now, without further ado, let's move on to how I'd fix this franchise. The first move I'd make to the Giants this offseason is to cut a couple of veteran players. These veteran players are offensive guard Mike Glowinski and wide receiver Darius Slayton. Glowinski has been disappointing since the Giants had signed him and carries a somewhat sizable cap hit. Darius Slayton has provided tremendous value for this Giants team since being drafted, and even led this team in receiving this past season. The reason for cutting him, though, is that the Giants have been trying to trade him for the last couple of seasons. He's pretty much hit his ceiling of like a wide receiver 3. He has a relatively highly cap hit, and I believe he's easily replaceable. After cutting Glowinski and Slayton, the Giants have roughly $50 million in cap space, which we will need for the next few moves. Now, the second move that I'm making to fix the franchise is to re-sign safety Xavier McKinney and safety/linebacker Isaiah Simmons. I already talked about how great McKinney was last season and how versatile he is as a player. I think re-signing him should be a priority. The contract I'm going to give him is based on market value, and that is a 5-year deal worth $52.4 million. This Giants secondary was a bit weak last year, and losing McKinney would be disastrous. Lock him up for the future. As I said, the other player I'm re-signing is linebacker/safety Isaiah Simmons. Simmons is an athletic freak who the Giants traded for from Arizona for a 7th-round pick. This was a steal for a former first-round pick that can play multiple positions. I don't think Simmons would be used as more than like a rotational player, but his versatility is very valuable. I'd lock him up on a 2-year, $15.3 million deal, and this is a low-risk, high-reward move in my opinion. If things don't work out, he's only locked in a 2-year deal. If things do work out, then you revisit his contract in a year or 2. Simmons and McKinney were 2 of 7 players that started for the Giants in 2023, but are free agents. The free agent starters that we are not resigning include running back Saquon Barkley, offensive guard Ben Bredesen, defensive tackle Rakeem Nunez-Roches, defensive end Jihad Ward, and cornerback Adoree Jackson. The only one of these that I feel needs explaining is Saquon Barkley. We've seen over the years that paying a running back rarely works out, and in today's NFL, running backs are a dime a dozen. The money the Giants can save from letting Barkley walk can be reallocated to more important positions. We are jumping into free agency with our third move. Here we are going out and signing free agent offensive guard Graham Glasgow from the Detroit Lions. Glasgow played over 1,000 snaps for Detroit in 2023 and a PFF grade of 75.1 while only allowing 2 sacks. The Lions had one of the best offensive lines in the league last season, so adding a piece from that line can't hurt. When it comes to the Giants' O-line, they most likely have their starting offensive tackles in Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal, and they drafted John Michael Schmitz in the second round of the 2023 draft with the intention that he will start as center. This leaves the offensive guard position pretty open for the Giants. Glasgow would immediately step in and start day one, and should bring valuable experience to a very young offensive line. The other offensive guards that we considered were Nick Allegretti from the Chiefs and Damian Lewis from the Seahawks. The contract we will be giving Glasgow is a 2-year, $8 million deal, and we're giving him a short contract as he's already 31. This also allows the Giants to draft a developmental guard to learn from Glasgow. Staying active in free agency, the fourth move that I'm making is to sign free agent running back A.J. Dillon from the Packers. Dillon was a second-round pick in 2020, but spent his first 4 years living in Aaron Jones' shadow. The few times Jones was injured, A.J. Dillon filled in very nicely. I don't think Dillon is ever going to be the playmaker that Barkley was, but he can be a more than serviceable running back. Dillon had over 800 all-purpose yards last season and graded out as a 75.7 on PFF. The other running backs I considered signing was Gus Edwards from the Ravens and Devin Singletary from the Texans. The contract I'm giving Dillon is a 2-year, $7 million deal. This contract is based on his market value. I love this contract as it's a short-term commitment to a somewhat unproven player. Dillon will have his opportunity to showcase his talents as a starting running back, and we will look for a running back in the draft to compete with him for the starting role. Speaking of the draft, that brings me to my fifth and final move, which is draft Malik Nabers and others in the 2024 NFL Draft. So I put a community poll out a week before posting this video where I asked our subscribers which player they think the New York Giants should select at pick 6. The options were wide receiver Malik Nabers from LSU, offensive tackle Joel Alt from Notre Dame, wide receiver Rome Odunze from Washington, and offensive tackle Olu Fashanu from Penn State. Over 360 people voted, and a whopping 62% went with Malik Nabers, which is who I had in my mind to begin with. Malik Nabers is the second best receiver in the NFL Draft and can start as the Giants' number 1 receiver on day 1. He reminds me of Jamar Chase in his game. He's a phenomenal route runner with great hands and solid height, weight, and speed. Nabers would be a playmaker for Daniel Jones or any other quarterback commanding this offense. We've covered Malik Nabers, but I would like to go over the remainder of the Giants draft. I would like to preface this with the fact that I used a mock draft simulator for this and made selections based on who was available in the specific mock draft. At pick 39 in the second round, I took defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat. Sweat's a monster of a man and would complement Sexy Dexy on the interior of this defensive line. He's a complete defensive tackle and would immediately address a big area of need for the G-Men. With their second round pick, I have the Giants taking cornerback Ennis Rakestraw Jr. at 47. A lot of the pro scouts are very high on Rakestraw, with some even projecting him to be a first-round selection. However, I think his injury concerns will make him fall. Nonetheless, when he's healthy, he's a great cover corner that can start outside opposite Deontay Banks. In the third round, I have the Giants taking running back Bucky Irving at pick 70. Bucky Irving has just as much potential as any running back in this draft class. He's an absolute playmaker that can do everything except pass protect. He can be slowly acclimated to this Giants offense with the goal of developing him into a workhorse back. At pick 107 in the fourth round, we have what might be my favorite selection of the entire draft. Offensive lineman Zach Zinner. Zinner was a beast at Michigan and does everything you would want from an offensive lineman. He is one of my top sleepers in this draft. Zinter profiles as a guard at the pro level, but with his size, I think he would do just fine at tackle. I don't think Zinter makes it past day 2, but if he does, this is an incredible pick. At pick 139 in the 5th round, we are taking wide receiver Jermaine Burton. Another wide receiver. Usually Alabama receivers translate well to the NFL, and Burton is going to bring a lot of speed to this team. Jermaine Burton is our Darius Slay replacement. If Burton can develop as a route runner, he has the upside to start for this team. The last of the Giants' picks come in the 6th round. We are taking edge rusher Mohamed Kamara at pick 184. Kamara is every bit of an athlete and was very productive at Colorado State. He's every bit of a developmental edge rusher and could end up being a rotational piece for this defense. Now, this is probably my favorite 7-round mock out of all the Fixing the Franchise episodes that I've done. I think there's a ton of value and upside in this draft. It all addresses most of the Giants' weaknesses. The only position I didn't address was quarterback, but if Daniel Jones doesn't work out in 2024, the 2025 quarterback class is going to be stacked, and the franchise quarterback can be addressed there. With all of my moves discussed, I want to take a moment to look at what this Giants team would look like in 2024 through my lens. Starting on offense, we have Daniel Jones at quarterback. As previously mentioned, he looked solid in 2022. If he can go back to playing like that this season, the Giants will be just fine. Rounding out the backfield, we have A.J. Dillon, who we brought over in free agency. He may not be Saquon Barkley, but he is more than serviceable. If he doesn't pan out, then there's always rookie 3rd-round pick Bucky Irving, who would be chomping at the bit. The receiving core would actually look very good, and the only change is the addition of Malik Nabers. Nabers would start outside with Jalen Hyatt opposite, stretching the field. Former 2nd-round pick Wan'Dale Robinson showed flashes in 2023 and could do some damage in the slot. If Darren Waller is able to stay healthy, he's one of the best receiving tight ends in the league. This has the potential to be a great group of weapons that would complement each other very well. Finally, the offensive line would have a few new additions to it. Andrew Thomas anchors the left tackle spot and is one of the best in the league there. Graham Glasgow would slide in and start at left guard, where all of a sudden the Giants have, dare I say, a great left side of the offensive line. John Michael Schmidt stays at center, where hopefully he will take that next step. Rookie Zach Zinner will probably win the right guard job during camp and should be very serviceable even as a rookie. Evan Neal will remain at right tackle with the hope that he will have a breakout season. And if Neal continues to struggle, then I would probably shift the line around just a little bit by moving Graham Glasgow to right guard. I'd move Neal inside to left guard and see how Zach Zinner does at the right tackle spot. You also have Justin Pugh as a versatile backup. I think this offense would have a decent amount of question marks going into the season, but I believe all these players would complement each other very well, and after fixing the kinks early on, could be an efficient offense ranked in the top half of the league. Switching to the defensive side of the ball, we don't have a ton of changes, as we are banking on young players developing and a new defensive scheme benefiting most of these star players. Dexter Lawrence and rookie T'Vondre Sweat would start on the inside of the defensive line, with Kayvon Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari reprising their roles as the starting edge rushers. Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden would stay at the inside linebacker spots as they played tremendously together in 2023. Shout out to Micah McFadden. I don't think I talked about him, but he is a very underrated linebacker. In the secondary, we would have Deonte Banks and Ennis Rankstraw Jr. starting on the perimeter, and Cordale Flott manning the slot. Xavier McKinney and Jason Pinnock would be staying at the starting safeties as they too played tremendously together in 2023. This defense wasn't as bad as the stats showed in 2023. There's a lot of young talent here and they are just a few pieces away. With Sexy Dexy, Kayvon Thibodeau, Bobby Okereke, Xavier McKinney, Deonte Banks, and rookies T'Vondre Sweat and Ennis Rakestraw, you have a lot of playmakers on this side of the ball. I think with a new DC, this defense has the potential to play like a top 10 defense in the NFL. The Giants' team needs this offseason are very subjective. I did my best to identify what I thought they needed and address them accordingly. I think this team could return to 2022 form next season with the 5 moves I discussed, but I want to hear what you think. Comment down below what you think this team's record could be in 2024. Don't forget to mention what you liked about this team, and also I'm sure you'll mention what you didn't like. That is going to be a wrap for episode 4 of Fixing the Franchise. Please make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and as always, stay cool.